Right now, there is a thin mesh screen on your window, and a bottle of spray in a drawer, and a marsh somewhere near your town that was drained before you were born. You have never thought about any of it. On a warm evening, you slap at your ankle, you scratch a lump for 2 days, and you forget it completely. But here is something that should stop you cold. That insect is the most dangerous animal on Earth, and it is not close. Not sharks, not snakes, not lions. Mosquitoes and the diseases they carry still kill hundreds of thousands of people every year, and most of them are children. Now take away the screens, the spray, the drained marshes, the hospitals, and the entire idea that an insect can make you sick. That is the world every one of your ancestors lived in for hundreds of thousands of years, and they lived in it in exactly the worst place possible, because humans need fresh water, and so do mosquitoes, so every camp in history was built beside a breeding ground. So how did they survive? How did ancient humans survive mosquitoes when they could not see the enemy and did not know it existed? The answer is far cleverer, far older, and far stranger than you would ever imagine. Because this insect did not only kill our ancestors, it changed them. And the proof is inside your body right now. So let's start with why you get bitten at all. Because almost everything you believe about this is wrong. The one biting you is female. Always, males never bite anything. She does not want your blood for herself. She needs the protein to make her eggs. And she is not finding you by chance. She is following your breath. Every time you exhale, you release a plume of carbon dioxide that drifts downwind in a long, ragged trail, and she picks it up from a very long way off and flies up it, zigzagging to stay inside it, exactly the way a dog follows a scent along the ground. Then, close up, she reads your body heat, the humidity off your skin, and your smell, which settles the argument everybody has on a summer evening, when one person is eaten alive and the person beside them is untouched. It is not sweet blood. That is not a thing. Your skin is covered in bacteria, and those bacteria make the compounds that give you your particular smell, and mosquitoes love some of them and ignore others. The species that carries malaria is especially drawn to the chemical signature of human feet. That has been tested. A researcher demonstrated that a certain very pungent cheese, ripened with a bacterium related to one living on your skin, attracts them on its own. You are not unlucky. You are being read. And that itch is not damage. She takes almost nothing. Before she drinks, she injects saliva to stop your blood clotting in her mouthparts, and the lump is your immune system reacting to what she left behind. Which is also why she is dangerous. Whatever she is carrying goes in with the saliva. So what did your ancestors do about it? They found the single best defense available, and they found it by accident. They sat in the smoke. Every human camp for hundreds of thousands of years had a fire, and mosquitoes will not fly through smoke. It masks the carbon dioxide plume, irritates them, and makes the whole area unreadable. Your ancestors sat by that fire for warmth, for light, and for safety from predators. And without ever knowing it, they spent every night inside the oldest and most effective mosquito repellent ever invented. And they worked out that it helped. All over the world, in places with no contact with each other, people started burning green plants and damp material at dusk to make thicker, harsher smoke, at exactly the hour the mosquitoes come out. That is not a coincidence repeated 50 times. That is 50 different groups noticing the same thing. They covered themselves too, mud and clay, animal fat, crushed aromatic leaves, and the plants they picked turn out to be the ones modern testing shows actually repel insects. They did not know the chemistry. They knew which leaf worked. But now, we arrive at the question you have secretly been wondering this entire time. What about sleeping? Because you cannot sit in smoke all night, and a sleeping human is a warm, breathing, defenseless target for 8 hours. And the answer is written down 2,500 years ago by a Greek traveler called Herodotus. He described people in the Egyptian marshes building tall towers and sleeping at the top, because the wind held the insects down and they could not fly that high. And he described the fishermen doing something better. Every one of them owned a net. At night, a man would drape his fishing net over his bed and sleep underneath it. That is a mosquito net. And Herodotus explains why it works, and he is exactly right. The insect will bite straight through a blanket, but it will not even try to get through a net, because a net holds it away from the skin. The single most important anti-malaria tool in the world today was invented by fishermen, thousands of years before anyone knew what malaria was. But none of it was enough. And this is the part that is genuinely hard to take in. The mosquito rewrote us. Malaria is a parasite that lives inside your red blood cells. So anything that makes those cells a worse home gives you an advantage, even at a terrible cost. And in the places where malaria hit hardest for longest, that is exactly what evolution produced. The famous one is sickle cell. Inherit 2 copies and you get a severe disease that, before modern medicine, usually killed you as a child. Inherit 1 and you are broadly healthy and substantially protected from dying of malaria. So the single copy was worth having. It spread, and the disease spread with it, and it happened again and again. Across Africa, the Mediterranean, the Middle East, South Asia, Southeast Asia, populations independently evolved different blood changes, all pointing at the same enemy. Take that in. One insect pushed so hard, for so long, that it left permanent edits in the genome of a huge fraction of our species. Hundreds of millions of people alive today are walking around with their blood rewritten by a mosquito, and it moved history too. Rome was ringed by marshland, and Romans knew the marshes made you ill. They blamed the air. Their phrase for bad air is where the word malaria comes from, and you are still using it. And in 1802, Napoleon sent an army to Haiti, and mosquito-borne yellow fever destroyed it, and shortly afterwards France sold its remaining North American territory to the United States. The map of the modern world was partly drawn by an insect, and then the cure came back out of the ancient world. In the 1970s, a Chinese researcher named Tu Yoyo went looking through old medical texts instead of modern compounds and found a wormwood remedy in a book written 1700 years ago. The instruction was to soak it in cold water, which made no sense. Because you boil a herb, she tried it cold anyway. It worked far better, because the active compound is destroyed by heat, and boiling had been wrecking it for centuries. That compound is artemisinin. It is the foundation of malaria treatment worldwide, and she won a Nobel Prize for reading an ancient book properly. So let's put the whole thing together. Your ancestors could not see the enemy, and they still beat it back with the 3 best weapons available. They slept in smoke, they covered their skin in mud and fat and exactly the right leaves. And a fisherman in an Egyptian marsh pulled a net over his bed and invented the most important piece of anti-malarial equipment in the world. They lost anyway, constantly on a scale we cannot really picture, and they lost for so long that the blood of the survivors was permanently changed. So the next time you slap at your ankle and complain about it, understand what you are actually experiencing. You are not tougher than your ancestors. Somebody drained the marsh your town sits on, put mesh on your windows, and paved over the water. You are being defended every night by decisions made before you were born, by people you will never know, against an enemy you have never once had to take seriously. For almost every human being who ever lived, that thin whine near your ear in the dark was not annoying. It was the sound of the thing most likely to kill their children.